Hi guys, how are you?
Pretty
Hey,
good. How
Stephen,
are
how
you?
are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. I just thought the film was incredible. I watched it a couple of days ago and I just can't stop thinking about it. But I won't gush too much 'cause I haven't got too long. But I'm going to start by asking you both how this kind of project came to be. Were you kind of contacted by Garrett and what were the kind of initial conversations that led to this film coming off the ground?
I was working with Garrett. Garrett had reached out to me on the recommendation of an organization called FLIC, Families and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children, to help her in her short doc that she was doing on called Alone. And in doing so, we were trying to get more recognition about our matter, more awareness about what had happened to our family. And I asked Garrett, would, after she finished this project, would she consider working with us to have our family story told and hope that it would help get relief for him. So that's how it initially all came along, to do a short op doc about our story and our sentence and how we have been fighting for him to come home.
Yeah, I was wondering because obviously, as the title is time, so as the film it alludes to the whole notion of lost time. So, Rob, I was wondering about that time spent in prison, and if that feels like lost time, or does it still very much feel like a part of your life?
Uh, it definitely does not feel like lost time. I, managed to do my best to make sure that I, feel the time with significant moments and significant experiences. That was the one thing that our family decided that we would do despite the time, and that is that we would continue to love one another despite the hardships that we were experiencing at the moment. So it definitely does not seem like lost time. And it takes me back to one of the articles that was written about us that said that this movie was more so about not necessarily, it had a feel of not necessarily what was lost, but more so about what was not lost. So that has really truly been our experience, is that even though, some would look at it and say that so much time was lost, but at the same time, yet so much was held on to in the process.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, you sort of look back over that period with so much kind of sadness and regret to have been apart for so long. But at the same time, is there still a sense of joy and relief when you kind of see each other every day? Because I guess there would have been periods of time where you both thought to yourself, we might not ever have the chance to do this again in our lifetime. So do you still, despite looking back, I'm sure with a lot of kind of disbelief, in some ways, is there still joy that comes out of the fact that you're sat here together right now, just talking to me, like next to each other?
We do that all the time. I mean, we wake up in the morning looking at each other, smiling and grinning, like, wow, look at this. We're together again, right? So I don't know. We always held on to the idea of one day being together. We just never knew that it would be 2 decades later.
Yeah.
So even in these moments right now, as we're sitting here next to one another, having these interviews, we're just tickled to death, to say the least, about the idea that we're even here now in time together, having gone through such a gory ordeal.
And I watched Ava DuVernay's The 13th, the documentary, and it's obviously shines a very harsh light on the prison system in America. Do you agree with the notion that it is effectively a sort of a legalized version of slavery, a kind of modern form of slavery?
It is
Oh, definitely agree.
undisputable.
Right, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
The 13th Amendment needs to be changed in our country. Either we're going to be a slave nation or we're not going to be a slave nation. Nothing you should be able to do in America should be able to make you a slave again.
Yeah.
Not even a
So,
bit.
yeah. What's the mood like in America at the moment? Because obviously this year socially and politically has been so significant with the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter protests, and then the election coming up. Does it feel like quite? It feels like quite from afar. It feels like quite an important time in this country's history at the moment.
It is
Mhm.
a historical moment in our country on so many levels: the pandemic, the new presidential elections, the movement for Black Lives, and Trump got COVID, just all of that coming together to really surmise 2020. But I think one of the most beautiful pieces is that one, time is going to be released in the midst of this.
Mm.
And that two, people in the midst of this are finding their voices in a way that we have never seen before in America. And so it is refreshing, and I think it is energizing, and it is definitely leaves us with a lot of optimism about, our future being brighter.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today. I'm sure it's so brief, and thanks for sharing your story in this movie. You
Thank
guys
you.
are so inspirational. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.